Today I'll be showing you how a Michelin star chef makes pasta at home with just 5 ingredients. The recipe comes straight from the kitchen of Carlo Cracco, the owner and head chef of Cracco in the heart of Milan, Italy, which has been named one of the best 50 restaurants in the entire world and awarded a prestigious Michelin star. But I'm not interested in Michelin stars for fancy ingredients that I don't have or tiny portions that cost over $100. Which is why today's dish comes together in just 20 minutes with simple ingredients and plenty of chef tips along the way to help improve your cooking no matter what you're making. This is Michelin meals you'll actually make. Now, it all starts with our pasta, of course, and with so few ingredients, the quality really does matter. So if you can get your hands on some bronze die extruded pasta, which if you look up close, has a much coarser texture than pasta pushed through a Teflon die, which is the same coating used to make your nonstick pan, non-stick. But why would you want a super slippery non-stick surface when your whole goal is for your pasta sauce to cling onto your pasta noodles? It goes without saying, whatever you have access to, whether it's $1 pasta from Trader Joe's or some good quality bronze side pasta, use whatever you got. It's your kitchen, your rules. All right, so let's get a pot of boiling salted water. And I'm not using much water here, more on that later. I still have yet to meet anyone that over salts their pasta water, so make sure to add quite a bit of salt in there. And while this gets boiling, let's get started on the prep for our sauce. First thing we'll need is a handful of cherry or grape tomatoes, which I'll cut in half just using the tip of my knife with gentle pressure, as opposed to if you were to apply direct pressure down to the tomato like this, which can sometimes lead to a little bit more leakage. And while we're here at the board, we can knock out the rest of our prep, which just involves smashing a couple of garlic cloves. You can totally leave the peel on like Chef Cracco suggests, but in my testing, it's kind of difficult to fish out later from the sauce, and you don't want little shards of garlic peel in your sauce, so I just find it easier to take them off now. Then I've got a good handful of basil leaves here. You can pluck off the biggest, prettiest, best ones and save those for later because we'll be using them for a garnish. And then just take the rest of the bunch, which we'll be using in the sauce. But for now, let's move over to the stove and get cooking. I'll start heating my large pan over medium heat with just a drizzle of a quality extra virgin olive oil. And then we'll just lay our tomatoes face down, and do be sure to add these while the pan is relatively cold still because you don't want hot oil splattering all up on you and burning your hands. And we'll be cooking these to almost blackened according to Chef Cracco, which is a technique I'm very familiar with, so that should be no problem. Feel free to occasionally check just with a fork, flip them over, see if you're getting any color yet. If not, pretty easy to flip them back and keep cooking. And this is what you're looking for here, nice and blackened, but not quite burnt. And now we can remove those from the pan and set them aside. And now that we've developed all this nice fond on the bottom of the pan, let's get cracking on the sauce itself. The base of which is a can of tomato puree, but depending on what you've got on hand, you can just as easily cook some more cherry tomatoes down into a sauce, use whole peeled or diced canned tomatoes and blend them together yourself into a puree. And to get the rest of that puree out of there, make sure to rinse some water in and mix that around before adding it back into the pan. So we can first scrape up all that fond off of the bottom of the pan. It should come off super easily now and give a nice charred flavor to our tomato sauce, almost like we're using fire roasted tomatoes, but even better since they're fresh. And our goal here is to reduce this down eventually by at least half, which should take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes depending on what heat setting you have it on. And this will really help intensify the final flavor of the sauce. To the tomato puree here, I'll also add our not as pretty basil and our crushed garlic cloves. And don't forget a good pinch of salt as well. No one likes an unsalted tomato. And while that's reducing, our pasta water should be about boiling now. And this tip kind of changed my life. Just gently twist your bundle of pasta like this, put it in the water, and then release. Boom, baby, let's go. And you can just leave this. You don't have to fuss around with trying to maneuver the pasta in with tongs or anything. It'll just naturally fall in a couple of minutes. It's actually pretty cool to watch when it starts happening. Go, pasta, go. I should mention, I like using a lot less water for my pasta to boil it. Number one, because it takes a lot less time to actually bring it to a boil, but also because the resulting water with the pasta will be a lot starchier and allow you to bring it into a lot more glossy and creamy of a sauce later. All right, it's been about 10 minutes and our pasta is approaching al dente-ish. But still a bit tough in the very center, which is right where we want it. So now I can take out the basil and the garlic. And at this point, don't forget to taste for seasoning and add some salt if you think it needs it. This is the thing that most home cooks like me miss, but the more you taste as you go, the more confident you can be that the final product will be just how you like it. And now instead of using a colander and making an extra dish messy, just do it how everyone actually does it and transfer it straight from the pasta cooking liquid into your sauce, which will bring a lot more of that starchy water along with it too. Plus, then you won't accidentally drain all this and need some later to thin out the sauce when it's too thick. So let's give it an initial toss to see what we're working with consistency-wise here. And we're looking pretty good. This would be about where I want to eat it, but a great tip I learned is that you want to make it about 20% runnier than what you want on your final plate, because between moving it to the table and eating as you go, there will be a lot of steam that's evaporating, like right now, and all that steam just means your sauce is thickening up and there's less water in it, so it'll get quite a bit thicker as you go. So I'll add in maybe about a quarter cup of pasta water here to thin it, and give that one last toss. This way you can also get some loose sauce on the bottom to spoon on top to make it look a little bit prettier. But remember those basil leaves we saved from earlier? Well, now's the time we're going to revisit them. I've always been confused by margarita pizzas. I love the aesthetic of large basil leaves topping up a dish, but I never know what I'm supposed to do or set them aside. So here we'll be stacking them on top of one another and then gently rolling them into a tight bundle. Then just take your knife and gently cut across so as to not crush them too much. We want to keep their color and vibrancy intact. And here you have a basil chiffonade, which will be a lot nicer to top our pasta, so you can actually eat the garnish without worrying about a huge basil leaf sitting there. Which works for any other flat herb like sage, for example. Now let's move on to plating, which is 100% the most overlooked thing that you can do today to start making your dishes feel more fancy at home. And a lot of times it's so simple to do. A super easy way to make your pasta plating look just a little bit more fancy is as you drop the pasta down on the plate, just spin the plate slightly with your tongs to make just a little bit of a nest shape. At this point, you can spoon a little bit of that sauce left on the bottom of the pan to top it up on top. And gently sprinkle on some of that basil chiffonade we made earlier. But wait, don't be a silly goose like me. We still have those charred tomatoes from earlier to add back into the dish. And I learned this technique back in the day from Emeril Lagasse, who would always use one ingredient in multiple different ways throughout making a recipe. And this helps give a really rounded depth of flavor to the dish that you often can't achieve just by using one ingredient in one certain aspect. And so adding these in gives a nice roasty blackened flavor, which complements the simmered down fresh tomato flavor from the canned tomatoes we used. So just sprinkle those over the dish, and I did also add just a little pinch of salt to them after I pulled them out of the pan earlier. And there we have it, Carlo Cracco's finished spaghetti al pomodoro, or spaghetti with tomato sauce. We've all made it before from a can of jarred tomato sauce, but after trying it this way with some easy techniques that anyone can implement from a Michelin star chef, I will never be going back, I'll tell you that. Thanks so much for spending some time cooking with me today. I'll see you next week.